Welcome to Bullseye. I'm Dylan Radigan, and in the Bullseye on a Monday night. Hi there, I'm back. I'll be back. No more travel. I'm here. It's you and me all the way out. Talking drugs tonight. $17 billion in market cap wiped out from Biogen and Elon. Shares of Elon dropping 70% in the day. Shares of Biogen IDEC dropping more than 42%. This after the two companies voluntarily pulled their much-hyped multiple sclerosis drug, Tysabri, from the market. Although no direct link was found, two patients taking the drug developed a rare but serious condition that left one dead, another gravely ill. The drug gone. Biogen IDEC dropping. You'll see the percentage loss is where the action is, because it gapped lower at the open, so you don't get a good look at it on the chart. But 42% comes out of the stock, trades down 28 bucks, 38.65. Elon, even more grim. 1878, the drop to 8. That's more than 2/3 of the value of the stock wiped out in a single day. CNBC's Mary Thompson did the reporting.
For Biogen IDEC, Tysabri was hailed as its next blockbuster drug. Now it's being shelved and isn't expected to return to market anytime soon.
I would say it's going to take months, not days or weeks, though, before we hear more about it. The investigation of this kind of thing is a very detailed and laborious process.
The voluntary withdrawal follows reports two patients participating in a clinical trial of the multiple sclerosis drug developed PML. Like MS, this disease affects the central nervous system. It's progressive, often fatal, and is caused by a virus found in 80% of the population. The patients affected were taking Tysabri in combination with Biogen IDEC's top-selling MS treatment, Avonex, over a 2-year period. Given no cases of PML were reported in patients only taking Avonex or Tysabri, Biogen IDEC says it's premature to expect Tysabri will be permanently removed from the market.
Even if the association is confirmed with PML, we're going to learn a lot more about how to detect the disease, what's the at-risk population, and there may well be ways to go forward with it with the appropriate warnings and the appropriate monitoring.
A humanized monoclonal antibody, Tysabri is a one-of-a-kind treatment for MS. It prevents white blood cells that attack the nerve endings of MS patients from crossing into the brain and spinal cord. Clinical trials showed it cut the frequency of MS flare-ups by 66%. While a blow to Biogen IDEC, analysts say Tysabri's withdrawal may boost sales of its other MS treatment, Avonex. Other beneficiaries could be the Swiss biotech firm Serono, maker of the MS treatment Rebif, and Teva Pharmaceuticals, which makes Copaxone. Analysts say these drugs occupy a similar space as Tysabri, treating more severe cases of MS or patients who suffer more side effects of the disease. Biogen IDEC says it's working with regulators to create a pathway for Tysabri, but at this point right now, the company says it's too soon to update its financial outlook. At $23,000 an annual dose, Tysabri's annual sales were expected to top $2 billion in a couple of years. On a housekeeping note, the analyst in this piece has no conflicts to report. For Bullseye, I'm Mary Thompson.
And with more on what the withdrawal of Tysabri means for multiple sclerosis patients and investors in both Biogen and Elon, Jeff Porges, the senior biotech analyst over at Sanford Bernstein, and Dr. Fawaz Faisal, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, Doctor?
Yes.
Neurologist on medical staff at Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank. And Dr. Faisal, I want to start with you. We spent much of the day talking about the stock ripple. It is quite dramatic, and you can see it there. What can you tell us about the science?
The science was quite good. There are, as you might know, 4 drugs that are available now to treat multiple sclerosis. Some were available as early as about 12 years ago. This new medication, Tysabri, was just released for clinical use in November, and it was a very promising drug. A lot of patients and physicians alike were waiting for it to be available. There were 2 studies that involved a couple thousand patients that were very promising and provided results that are almost twice as good as with the other available medications. So it was a very highly promising drug.
Dr. Faisal, where do we draw the line between making drugs available that may be greatly beneficial and at the same time protecting individuals from potentially fatal side effects, as we saw in one instance with, or potentially anyway in one instance that may involve this drug, Vioxx, a more obvious and grander example of that situation?
That's the million-dollar question. I really don't have a good answer for that. It just takes more rigorous studies, probably longer duration. In this case, the study was 1 year, and the high promise expedited its approval by the FDA. It looks like we should probably be more careful in expediting drugs.
Jeff, do you share that view that potentially extending the duration of studies might prevent the issuance of drugs that are potentially fatal, particularly ones when they're taken for chronic treatments that will go over long periods of time?
Well, certainly this drug is a good example. This is a disease where treatment is typically 10, 20, 30 years long. And in this case, the efficacy was so compelling that the FDA felt obliged to move ahead and make it available. Clearly, there's going to be a lot of second guessing of that decision, and probably in the future, that approval, that expedited approval, is going to be offered more guardedly, I would say. It's hard to see how they're going to justify going ahead in the same way they did after this.
I want to pose this question, I suppose, to both of you. I'll start with you, Jeff. Do you view the concept of fast-tracking drugs in general to be something that is potentially a element of the past in the context of recent events?
No, I think every drug that's marketed, and we've certainly seen it even with the FDA's view of Vioxx recently, every drug that's marketed has risks and benefits. And I don't think we should assume that drugs for life-threatening conditions like multiple sclerosis should not have any side effects. The challenge is, how do you design a study that's large enough to detect very rare side effects? In this case, let's say that this side effect might occur 1 in 10,000 patients. Do you force the company to do a 10,000 patient study with all the huge costs and the time involved, or do you accept that there's some risk, particularly in a drug like this that has such tremendous benefit? And I think that was a calculation that the FDA and the manufacturers made, and I think they're having to pull back from that. But I think that the FDA will continue to try and make drugs available in an expedited fashion for life-threatening diseases.
Dr. Faisal, what is your answer to Jeff's question in terms of the scope and scale of a given test?
I think I agree with that completely. I think we should not make general statements just from this incident. And of course, we have the Vioxx story just very recently, but still, I think there was compelling science. And this occurred in 2 patients who have been on combination therapy. We don't know the whole story yet. This just came out today. And they've been taking the combination for over 2 years, I understand. So there are a lot of issues to be understood still with this matter.
Jeff, when you look back away from this and look at the overall picture in the pharmaceutical industry, do you see an institutional problem with the way we're processing and releasing and testing drugs, or do you simply see the inevitable failures of any system when developing new ones?
There's a lot of speculation now as to whether the FDA's oversight of the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries has some way become too lax. I'm not necessarily suggesting that. I think we're pushing the frontiers of science now and bringing forward very exciting new drugs that target new mechanisms of action and bring a lot of benefit to patients.
But is the FDA matching that?
Yeah, I think the FDA is moving towards having some separation of the oversight of drug safety, and I think that is appropriate.
I will wish you both a pleasant evening and thank you for your time. Jeff Porges, thank you. Dr. Fawaz Faisal. Am I getting that right, Doctor?
That's good.
Tell me I'm getting it right.
That's perfect.
Beautiful. Have a good night, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.